Good evening. Welcome to the Weekend Primetime. We begin tonight with the story of a Minneapolis family driving home from a middle school basketball game with their 6 children on Wednesday night when they got stuck in a clash between protesters and federal agents. The mother, Destiny Jackson, told the New York Times that flashbangs and tear gas went off around their car, leaving both parents and children gasping for air, including their 6-month-old baby. Here's how she described the terrifying moment.
He was just like lifeless, like he had like foam like around his mouth, and he had tears coming out his eyes. I was giving him mouth to mouth, and I remember stopping and I said, I will give you all my breath till you get yours back, because nobody wants to see their kids like that.
I just don't even know what to say. Like, I have goosebumps. I can only imagine the terror that that family felt, thinking your 6-month-old baby about the same age as your child, because of this presence in Minneapolis that the Star Tribune says dwarfs the 10 largest police departments in the entire state of Minnesota. There are more ICE agents right now in Minneapolis. It's turned it into a police state that is out of control.
You know, I think we've been talking a lot about this because there's a narrative that the administration is trying to advance, which is somehow people that are out there protesting are disrupting ICE, making life dangerous for ICE, that ICE is now somehow the victim in all of this. But when you hear these accounts and when you see the accounts that we get almost on a daily basis of Americans, innocent bystanders or people exercising their right to protest freely, getting caught up in all of this, you see what these raids are doing to communities and the fear that they're putting people in, that you can't even drive home from a basketball game with your family without the fear of getting caught up in some kind of violence or getting shot at by the police or ICE agents. And I think that fear is permeating across the country in a way that the administration intends, so that they can advance, and we're hearing this more and more, advance their, their willingness perhaps to use the Insurrection Act in America.
One of the most chilling things that I've heard some of our colleagues, the reporters who've been on the ground this past week, describe is this sense that, often when you cover stories like this where there are these clashes with protesters, police officers, I mean, many of us have covered these stories in Minneapolis itself, there are sections of the city, right, where things are intense, where there's chaos, but maybe the rest of the city is operating business as usual. But in this case, they have permeated the entire area, outside of the city limits, too. People are seeing them inside restaurants and businesses. They're then, we learned from another story, returning to those restaurants, actually, in the case of one Mexican restaurant, to abduct, to detain the very people who have served them. People hear constant noises of honking, people panicking, warning their neighbors that ICE is nearby. So in addition to these frightening, horrific moments like what we just saw this mother go through, cannot fathom turning to your infant and seeing foam at their mouth. You have to remember, even for people who have nothing to do with this, no connection to this at all, who have themselves maybe never even attended a protest, it has changed all of life for people living in that part of Minnesota. And I think that's why we're seeing the polling turn the direction that it is going. Americans seem to understand that what's happening there seems to have very little actually to do with immigration, with public safety, with the stated goals the administration has asked us as Americans or as reporters to believe and to repeat. It goes against so much of what we are physically seeing day in and day out on the ground with our own eyes.
When I first saw the headlines on this story, it was very upsetting. As Elise points out, I have an almost 6-month-old daughter, and it was really difficult to force myself to actually watch the video of the parents and read about what happened. And you cannot avoid it. I think I understand Americans' temptation to turn off the TV and stop reading the news because it is so upsetting. But as Antonia points out, it's coming for you. Whether or not you want to block out those headlines that feel very distant, feel very far away because they resonate too much, they're too scary, like this could come for me, you cannot block it out. And I think that's what Americans really need to embrace right now, right? That just because it's, you think that we've been told initially, like, they were coming for the criminals. Don't worry, it's not about you. No, well, maybe they're coming for other immigrants. Maybe they're coming for U.S. citizens. Maybe they're coming for a family that is trying to drive home from a basketball game. And
your taxpayer dollars.
Your taxpayer dollars are paying for it. And they are terrorizing Americans in the name of keeping Americans safe.
And can we just note real quickly that when this story first came out, DHS tried to put the blame on the family. And again, this is why, to your point as well, like they're trying to weave this narrative that everybody who's getting caught up in this is their fault. The administration, the ICE agents, none of them are doing anything wrong. They're just out there trying to do their job. They actually put a post out on X that says, and seems to have been taken down, but it said DHS appeared to blame the Jackson family for their hospitalization. Quote, "It is horrific to see radical agitators bring children to their violent riots. Please stop endangering your children."
I have some words for that are not appropriate for this TV
well, then
show.
let them live their lives in peace and safety, not in the security theater that you've created that is making us less
It's an important point, though, and I want to add this quickly. I know we have so much to get to, but a lot of reporters are trained to give a lot of deference to law enforcement, certainly federal law enforcement, they're seen as credible. Their statements are often released first, and then we find out what the story is from
George Floyd died of a medical condition.
Exactly. But reporters who are covering this are speaking both publicly and privately about the fact that now they do not feel they can trust a single thing DHS tells them. I mean, to the point where you can't even be sure that if they label someone as a protester, that you can believe they actually were a part of the protest.
Or a gang member.
Or a gang, exactly. That now you have to go to the source, to the community, to verify what's actually happened, because too many times now, with this story and others in just the last few weeks, we have found that almost what they have described has been not just not entirely accurate, but almost the exact opposite of what the truth turned out to be.
Yep.